Welcome back, everyone, to the ULTY portfolio update for the end of the week. Remember, this is the video series where you get to know what's going on in the ULTY portfolio, what stocks they're buying, what stocks they're selling, the options trades they put around them, how they're generating income. It's all here on the ULTY portfolio update. And in today's video, we actually don't have that much headline news to cover, just one company that I'm going to focus on. But what we're going to go over in the last half of the show is we're going to talk about the 6 stocks that ULTY bought at the beginning of the week. Remember, they bought 6 new stocks at the beginning of the week on Monday, and then they added a 7th, I think it was on Tuesday, and we're going to see how those 7 stocks performed throughout this week. We're going to do the calculations together and see, are those stocks up or down, and figure out what's going on. But before we get into that, let's talk about MP Materials Corp., which was down 11% on the day, and that was the only real big loser in the ULTY portfolio. MP Materials Corp., this is the one where the U.S. government says they're going to take a stake in it because it produces critical materials, magnet materials that are required for electric vehicles, for the Department of Defense. Basically, they want the rare earth minerals that MP Materials is extracting, and they want a stake in that. So that's what's going on with that stock. But why is it down? Well, this article had a pretty good explanation. This is from the Motley Fool, where they're saying that automotive giants Stellantis, General Motors, Volvo, and then Samsung as well are investing $150 million in a startup called Neuron Magnetics, or maybe it's Neuron Magnetics, which wants to make magnets from common elements, such as iron and nitrogen, rather than rare earth elements, which is what MP Materials does. So the idea behind this is that these other big companies are saying, we want to source our magnets potentially from this other small company that's not even public, Neuron Magnetics, instead of MP Materials. P Materials will do it with rare earth materials, and Neuron will do it with more commonly found metals. That's why that stock was down, because people probably feared that this startup, the investment in this startup, was going to decrease the demand for what MP Magnetics is producing. That's really the only big headline. HIMS was up 6.43% on the day. Remember, HIMS is also now going to be a single stock covered call ETF that YieldMax does. Strategy was up 2.78%, Rocket Companies 2.41%, Coin up 1.92%, and BitMine up 1.88%. Some good moves in the crypto space there. CoreWeave was down almost 5%, but there wasn't any material news on CoreWeave. Overall portfolio, we were down, if we look at ULTY on the day, 0.18%, not a huge move. Compared to the NASDAQ was up 0.41%. Looking at a 5-day trading chart, we see that, and remember, this is not adjusted for dividends. Let's go 5 days. We see that the NASDAQ was down 0.43% on the week. ULTY was down 3.46% on the week. So the stocks that were in the portfolio were down 3.46%, as well as the options trades. Collectively, ULTY's down. Adjusting for dividends, we see that ULTY was only actually down 1.86% on the week. Dividend yield of about 1.5% per week. So they fell a little bit faster than the dividend. But, last week was a super up week. I think every trading day they traded up. This week, different story. But ended the week not on a high note, but still, if you look at the day change, 0.18%, not too bad. ULTY has sold out of a lot of the companies that were going up very fast, such as IonQ, such as Oklo. So they got out of those, but even those haven't been doing well either. So that's really the news there. Also note that ULTY lost some shares this week. Not too many. I think the difference there is like 1 million or so shares, maybe not even that, 0.07%. It could be that people are getting out of ULTY and going into WPay. I have another video on that topic of WPay versus YieldMax. There'll be more to come on that, but WPay is a weekly pay ETF from Roundhill that doesn't do covered calls, doesn't do options. They do total return swaps. That's in another video. more on that in another video. Stock gains, we were up $39 million. Stock losses down $33 million. Overall net was up $5.5 million. Now, of course, the price did go down, and that's because the portfolio is more than just the stocks. There's the cash position as well, which is very large. Remember, the cash position is almost, I think it's tracking about 21%, looking at that, 2% and 19.89%. So yeah, large cash position in ULTY there. And of course, when they buy options, that costs them money as well. So you can have stocks go a little bit, but if the cash position goes down, or if they buy more options, then guess what? The portfolio is not going to always be up. Now, total winners on the day, we had 10, losers 13, a 43% win rate. So actually pretty good. If we look at yesterday's win rate, I think we were at 21%. The day before, we were at 34%. So climbing back up there, good to see, up 43% for winners. Now, let's turn to the new trades for the week. So now let's turn to the stocks that they bought at the beginning of the week. We had basically these ones here: BitMine Immersion Technologies, Figma, Pony AI, QUBT, which is quantum computing, SoundHound AI, and Symbotic as well. They later added MP Materials on Tuesday for a total of 7 stocks. Total investment this week was $512 million, $500 million they bought of stock. Let's see if that went up or down, and we're going to do it together. So let's start with BitMine Immersion, and we will do a sum-if formula, and we will search for the ticker here and grab the ticker from there, and we will ask it to sum up from those columns there and expand that so we can see. And we'll just carry this down. So it looks like in total, they bought $80 million of BitMine Immersion Technologies. That was the cost throughout the week because they bought it on the 22nd, and then they also bought it on the 25th yesterday. So let's drag this down for the rest of them. And again, there it is. So Figma, they put in $70 million. That's their cost. Pony, 63. Quantum computing, 62. 97 in SoundHound AI, Symbotic 78 million, and MP Materials was the smallest at 59 million. So how many shares did they get? Let's do sum if again. And we are going to, again, search the ticker column and grab the ticker there and have them sum up the shares of each of them. And we'll drag it down as well. Okay. And the cost per share is just going to be the cost, the value, divided by the shares. So we get the average cost per share because, they bought it in different chunks. Like if you look at the top, when the first time they bought BitMine Immersion, they paid $55.49 a share. Second time, $55.74. And now what we'll do is we'll pull in the current price of these stocks using Google Finance, and you just do equal Google's Finance and select your ticker, and it loads, and you can just drag it down. They'll load the rest of them, and very cool. Now the gain and loss here, we'll do it in dollar terms. So what we're going to do is equals, and parentheses, we'll do current price times the total shares minus the cost. And we see we've already got a $7 million loss on the board there for BitMine Immersion Technologies, and that can now be dragged down. Okay, so it looks like total losses here are 37 million just on the stocks. Remember, we're not counting the options trades in this. We just want to see of the stocks that were bought this week, how have they done so far? Looks pretty bad overall. Only one was up, which was Pony AI, and not the biggest position either. It was only up 510,000. Everything else, 7-figure losses there. The worst one in dollar terms was SoundHound AI, down 9.7 million. But let's look at it in percentage terms by basically just taking this gain or loss, which is mostly losses, and dividing it by the cost there. So down 9% for BitMine, dragging it down, and looking at this, down 10% for Figma. And I almost want to question that. Is Figma really down Started the week at 58.98, now at 52.91. Let's put this in dollar terms and check out Figma. Figma stock. Down 6.7% in the past few days, but it looks like ULTY did not buy at the right price. They got unlucky because if they bought it exactly at the open on Monday, they only would have paid 56, but instead looks like they bought closer to the end of the day when Figma was at $58, and it just kept averaging down. So bad timing there, unlucky. Yeah, average price 58.98. Let's actually filter for Figma here and see what they did. 59, 58, and 58. Yeah, so they didn't get lucky there. So yeah, Figma was the worst performer. SoundHound down 9.98%. Symphotic down 9.7%. So they just got really unlucky with their stock picking that they bought on Monday, and the markets kept going down further and further on Monday, and some of these closed at, down 7.3%, down 9%. Not good stuff. So hopefully, we haven't analyzed the options trades on all these, but hopefully there's some cushion there as well in the way of premiums that will lessen the blow. We might actually analyze the options trades on these in another video to try to see what's going on there. We might pick Figma. That would be a good one to do. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I do appreciate your time. If you did find the video useful and valuable, I'd ask that you give it a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe so that you get these notifications when it comes out. And if you didn't find the video useful, you can always leave a comment below, give me some feedback, and tell me what you want to see in a future video. I'll try to incorporate that. Everyone, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy your ULTY distribution. I look forward to seeing you next week when we're going to review even more ULTY trades and go over what's happening in the ULTY portfolio. So take care, guys. See ya.